Okay, say good morning. We're going to be talking about the word pray. This will be page 96. What the mouth of words of God say about his word pray. Um, we're going to pick it up here at Revelation chapter 5, verse 10. Revelation chapter 5, verse 10. And has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. Proverbs chapter 1:26. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. Hosea chapter 9, verse 4. They shall not offer wine offering to the Lord, neither shall they be pleasing unto him. Their sacrifices shall be unto them as the bread of mourners. All that eat thereof shall be polluted, for their bread, for their soul shall not come into the house of the Lord. Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 14. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use, nor given aught thereof for the dead. But I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me. God say about his word, pray. Page 97. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 3. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud, among the beasts that shall ye eat. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 4. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 5. And the cunny, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 6. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 7. And the swine, though he divideth the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 4. Which remain among the graves, and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh, and broth of abominable things is in their vessels. Okay? Page 97 of 1. What God say about his word pray. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 8. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 9. These ye shall eat of all that are in the waters. All that have fins and scales shall ye eat. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 10. And whatsoever hath not fins and scales ye may not eat, it is unclean unto you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 10. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 11. They shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcass in abomination. But ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. That's Leviticus chapter 11, verse 11. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 12. What God say about his word, pray. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 12. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 13. And these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten, they are an abomination. The eagle and the ossie, furge, and the osprey. Romans chapter 14, verse 1. Him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations. Romans chapter 14, verse 1. Again, him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations. Job chapter 4, verse 3. Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Isaiah chapter 35, verse 3. Strengthen ye the weak hands, and confirm the feeble knees. Job chapter 4, verse 3. Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Job chapter 4, verse 4. Thy words have upholden him that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. What the mouth and voice of God say about his word, pray. Page 99. What God say about his word, pray. Hebrews chapter 12, 12. Wherefore lift up the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees. Job 4, verse 3. Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened the weak hands. Job chapter 4, verse 4. Thy words have upholden him that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. Romans chapter 14, verse 2. For one believeth that he may eat all things, another who is weak eateth herbs. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 25. Whatsoever is sold in the shambles, that eat, asking no question for conscience sake. Romans chapter 14, verse 3. Romans chapter 14, verse 3. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God hath received him. Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days. Romans chapter 14, verse 3. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not. Page 100. What the mouth of what's God say with his word pray. Romans 14, verse 3. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God hath received him. Colossians chapter 2:16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days. Galatians chapter 4:10. Ye observe days and months and times and years. Romans chapter 14, verse 4. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall be holden up, for God is able to make him stand. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. For I know nothing by myself, yet am I not hereby justified. But he that judgeth me is the Lord. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. The Lord is the one that judges. Page 101. What God say by his word pray. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 5. Therefore judge nothing before the time, until the Lord come, who both will bring to light the hidden things of darkness, and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts. And then shall every man have praise of God. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Ezekiel chapter 16, 25. Thou hast built thy high place at every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred, and hast opened thy feet to every one that passed by, and multiplied thy whoredoms. Luke chapter 6:37. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Romans chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore thou art inexcusable, O man, whosoever thou art that judgest, for wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. For thou that judgest doest the same things. What the mouth of voice of God say about his word. Pray, page 102. Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. Judges chapter 14, Judges chapter, James chapter 4, verse 12. There is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Who art thou that judgest another? Matthew chapter 10, 28. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 12. Say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom this people shall say a confederacy. Neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. What the mouth of voice of God say about his word, pray. Romans chapter 14, verse 5. One man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Romans chapter 14, verse 6. He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord, and he that regardeth not the day to the Lord, he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not to the Lord, he eateth not and giveth God thanks. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 31. Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. Matthew chapter 5, 16. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. Forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. Page 104. What the mouth and voice of God say about his word, pray. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Romans chapter 14, verse 7. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? Romans chapter 14, verse 7. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Okay. Page 105, part 6. God say but his word, pray. Romans chapter 6, verse 6. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Romans chapter 6, verse 6. knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. Galatians chapter 2 verse 20. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Romans chapter 14, verse 8. What the mouth of words of God say about his word, pray. Romans chapter 14, verse 8, page 106. Romans chapter 14, verse 8. For whether we live unto the Lord. And whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's. Romans chapter 14, verse 9. For to this end Christ both died and rose and revived, that he might be Lord both of the dead and living. Acts chapter 10:36. The word which God sent unto the children of Israel, preaching peace by Jesus Christ, he is Lord of all. Again, that's Acts chapter 10, verse 36. The word which God sent unto the children of Israel, preaching peace by Jesus Christ. He is Lord of all. Romans chapter 14, verse 10. But why dost thou judge thy brother? Or why dost thou set at naught thy brother? For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. Judges chapter 14. Jude chapter 14. Jude verse 14. Jude verse 14. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these sayings. Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints. All right. Page 107. God say about his word, pray. Genesis chapter 5, 18. Genesis chapter 5, verse 18. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begot Enoch. Jude 14. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints. Jude 15. Jude verse 15. To execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 5. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony, that he pleased God. Genesis chapter 5, verse 22. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. What the mouth and voice of God say about his word, pray. Page 108, God say about the word pray. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 12. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 12. That ye would walk worthy of God, who hath called you unto his kingdom and glory. Jude 15. To execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Romans chapter 14, verse 11. For it is written, As I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God. Luke chapter 24, verse 26. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things, and to enter into his glory? Isaiah 53, verse 1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Isaiah chapter 53, verse 2. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. Page 109, what God say about the word pray. Mark chapter 9, verse 12. And he answered and told them, Elias verily cometh first, and restoreth all things, and how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things, and be set at naught. Philippians chapter 2, verse 7. But made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquitted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. John chapter 1, verse 10. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Psalm chapter 33, verse 6. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. Hebrews chapter, page 110, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 3. God said about his word pray. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 3. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. John chapter 1, verse 3. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Job 26:13. By his Spirit he hath garnished the heavens. His hand hath formed the crooked serpent. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Isaiah 53, verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 6. All we like sheep were gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. Page 111, what God said his word pray. Isaiah 53, verse 7. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 19. But with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. Exodus chapter 12, verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 19. He shall offer at his own will a male without blemish of the beeves of the sheep or of the goats. John chapter 129. The next day John seeth Jesus coming unto him, and saith, Behold the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. Alright? I'm going to break off right there.